Yeah, lots of different things. What are you training for and whatever else. So
Yeah, and I suppose I think people have got to ask themselves, what is it they're trying to do, isn't it? Are they just enjoying being fit, losing weight, being kind of doing different activities? So if they want to cross train, if they want to run, if they want to do it all, but actually if you do have a goal and you would like to get a certain time or achieve a certain result in a certain race, then actually there is a proven base that you should try to follow with the help of somebody possibly, or a club or whatever.
Yeah, or there's lots of stuff online, you know, that if you start to trawl through it, you'll have a fair idea of yourself, or for yourself anyway. But like, again, touching on that, like, I'm not saying people shouldn't do these other things. Like, I mentioned CrossFit. I only mentioned it because there was a time in CrossFit where they had this thing called CrossFit Endurance, and they were basically saying, look, you don't need to do mileage, you don't need to do volume, you need to do way less volume, and you need to do CrossFit Endurance. And like the acid test for that is, right, has anyone in elite sport adopted that? They haven't, because we know it doesn't work. Like, we know that to develop the base you need to be successful in endurance sports, you actually need to do the mileage. It's just there's no way around it. Like, just going back to Stephen Sire, he was saying, like, to get to that third hour of your run, you have to do the first 2 hours. Like, you can't just not do them and then get the same adaptation that a 3 hour run would give you. You know what I mean? But if you're not as bothered and you enjoy CrossFit, and you know, you want to go and do races, but maybe you don't really care that it mightn't be the optimal way to train, then of course.
Absolutely.
Or you don't have the time, you know, you're like someone who just simply doesn't have 6 hours or 10 hours or 15 hours a week to train, which is most of us, then okay, you want to do CrossFit or whatever it is, outside of that, go do it. Like, of
enjoy
course,
it.
like,
Life's for living.
I mean, 100%. So but so that was how do we get onto that? You said about mileage, wasn't it?
I'm going to quickly change this battery because it's cold and it's about to die in a minute. Right, battery's been changed. So we were kind of touching on all kind of talking about training and stuff like that. That's, people might not know, I maybe said, but you and Sarah coaches, you got missing link, so you kind of, I suppose you've drawn on a lot of years of experience to kind of get to where you are now with your kind of coaching. Yeah, and like, I'd be the first to admit that I'm not that experienced, but I suppose I have experience of other sports as well, since I'm 10 years old, like, and well, playing at a relatively decent level, and I don't know, you pick stuff up from that as well. It might not be the same sport, and you know, then working in the fitness industry, and so I suppose in terms of our coaching, like, we only set this up probably into 2014, so it's not a massive amount of time, but we've been going a while, and feel like... Just out of interest, do you feel pressure when you're doing something? So when you're racing, when you did Lick 100, whatever, as a coach, as somebody who's kind of like there, who's kind of like training other people to achieve certain... Do you feel a pressure that, shit, if I don't actually do well in this, do you know what I mean? No, like, I mean, look, it's no secret, like, I know my level. I'm not you know, well, we've mentioned Ricky Lightfoot. I'm not Ricky Lightfoot. I'm not the best runner in the lakes. You know what I mean? I'm very comfortable in the fact that I'm not, you know, this brilliant runner or anything. But like, that's I've accepted that. You know, I love racing. I love short fell races where you know, it's a blast for an hour, and then you can you're still able to move the next day, and you're not sleep deprived and all that. Like, that's probably my favourite type of racing. But that's not my strong point for sure. I probably don't have a strong point. I'm just like, you know. And but I'm fine with that. And you know, maybe if I focused a bit more and I wanted to do, you know, like say the Lakeland Classics or the Champs races, maybe I might improve a little bit in those type of races. But I'm still not ever going to be Carl Bell or Ricky Lightfoot or whatever. And that's not being, I'm not being all negative and defeatist. It's just that is just the case. Yeah. And so like me coaching, it shouldn't really matter that I'm whatever level I am. You know, that's not what's important in a coach. But unfortunately, that's what maybe the general public will look at and say, oh well, you know, I want to be coached by this person because they've done this or whatever, which is no bearing on their coaching. It does obviously give you some experience, but it's not the all and end all.
No. So, kind of moving kind of back to the kind of Wainwrights, and I suppose this is kind of touching on the kind of coaching side of it as well. You know, you were kind of raising money for Mind, for mental health, and sadly, Chris Sterling, who's a good friend of many folk around here, lost his life earlier in the year. And he did an amazing job raising money, and as we said, the fundraising page is still open. We can put a link on there for it. But one of my kind of observations from being involved in the kind of ultra running world for a number of years is that there is a lot of people who, you know, run for their mental health. It kind of helps them deal with issues and deal with things. But one of the downsides of doing, and maybe, I don't know if this is just longer events, it seems the longer the event, the bigger the blue period afterwards, the tough period afterwards. And I know that I kind of did speak to you before the Wainwrights, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I kind of touched on that. It's kind of like, you know, you put yourself through so much. Well, you put your body, but your mind as well, through so much stress to achieve that. And you did that over the Wainwrights, but that could be the equivalent of somebody just doing their first ultra. Like, do you ever kind of, with your kind of clients or coaching people, is that something that you ever see or help people within your kind of coaching side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's happened occasionally that, you know, people tell you stuff that maybe they, how they're feeling, you know, about certain things. I think in that role, maybe that is bound to happen at some point because it affects how they're training, and it's obviously very relevant information. But then at the other side of it, some of the people who we deal with, we don't see very often. And maybe it, you know, someone wouldn't feel comfortable talking about that to someone they don't know very well in terms, you know, personally. You know, so I think it's probably difficult for someone to come and speak to you about that, or to speak to you about that over the phone when they have never had much dealings with you face to face. And so it's maybe not a thing that has happened very often with coaching clients, but like I know of just people who I know, you know, who maybe go through that kind of down period after a long event. And it's happened to me as well, you know, where you just feel a bit crap because like all this thing you were building up to, it's taken up most of your time and your thoughts, and then it's gone, and you know, it's like, oh, what do I do now? And it's never been an issue for me really. It's just you have this kind of feel a bit crap, even though you should feel great because you've got this thing done. But I can see how it happens to people, and I think like it's difficult because like running definitely does help people deal with you know, problems they might have mentally, but equally it doesn't always help, and like Chris himself had said, you know, that it wasn't giving him his training wasn't doing it for him anymore. It wasn't helping him deal with stuff, and like, what do you do then? You know, it's definitely a more complex problem than I you know, being ignorant of the whole thing. I probably at one point thought, well, just get people out the door, get them in fresh air, get them moving, get them running or cycling or whatever, and the problems will sort themselves out. And that's like a really ill-informed probably way of thinking about it, because it's not true. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately, for everyone, and it definitely helps some people. Depending, you know, obviously it depends on their circumstances, and it might be the thing that really turns their life around and gets them you know, going the way they want to go again. But for some people, it's
right. Sorry, so to change the memory card. You're probably all bored. Nobody's watching anymore.
Too much talking. Yeah.
Everybody's turned off. But no, on a serious note, we were talking about kind of mental health, and we were saying how running can be a really good thing for people to kind of deal with it. But in the same token, I think you can maybe to start with it can be really useful, but then you can get a period where actually, just because of your own personal circumstances, it stops being that help.
Yeah, and I think if you know, you're dealing with injuries then as well, that's a whole other ball game. You know, I mean, like running's great when you can run, but if you're if it's taken from you, or you're
over 12 months of no running.
Yeah. So like, you know all about it. Like, you know, it's very difficult, and I think that's why it probably is good for us to have some other form of outlet. You know, I think there was a while there I joined a jiu-jitsu club in Kendal, and Sarah was going as well, and it was absolutely brilliant. Like, great people running it. Like, they're like, couldn't be nicer at getting you involved, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was shit at it, but I absolutely loved it. And that, to me, I always think, like, well, if something happens that I can't run at all, I would be desperate to try and find something to replace it, like that, you know, that gives you that kind of high. And I know it's not the same as running, but it's very important maybe to try and branch out and have other outlets probably that you can turn to if the running isn't doing it, and a lot of people will say, well, it's not the same, you know, cycling doesn't do the same thing for me, but maybe it's just about looking around a bit further and finding, well, is there something that can sort of replace it for a period of time? It might only need to be 6 months, you know. If you're suffering from a bad injury, maybe mountain biking is the answer if you're a fell runner, I don't know. But it's important to maybe have a contingency plan when things hit the fan. So but in terms of I don't have the answers in terms of how to deal with your mental health when your sport stops being that positive thing that was helping you through those issues. Like, it's just such a complex thing, and I'm not the right guy to ask about.
No, I think that's for the professionals, and it's that thing of, I suppose people say you've just got to talk, and I suppose it's for us, if we cope mentally with things, okay, I suppose it's just being there for others and to try and encourage them and stuff. But ultimately, there is only so much that you can that you can do as a non-professional. But other than, you know, try to be there, or even just trying to be aware of who those people are who maybe do have periods of being down.
I think it's like, I suppose, you know, Chris and those circumstances probably opened my eyes a bit more, and maybe I'm a bit more clued in, or sort of looking for those signs, you know, and I think since this film and since the Wainwrights or whatever, in the last couple of months, there's probably been about 4 people have said to me, whether it's a text message or to my face, they've had issues, and really serious issues, and I would never have guessed it in a million years, you know. And that kind of brought it home to me that, like, obviously we're hearing it all the time, that it's so many people are suffering like this, but that kind of, to me, was a bit of an eye-opener that
there's more people suffering
more than we know,
you realise.
And you know, and I think, like, even the person just saying that, or texting it or whatever, that's a help, you know.
That's a start, isn't it?
So I suppose being clued in to the signs, I guess, you know, that if you can be, then you know, you might be able to just, all you have to do is maybe just say, are things all right, you know, and that might just open the door for someone to tell you about it, and you're not going to solve anything for them potentially, but it's what they say, isn't it? It's just like a weight off your mind, and it's a start.
Well, we're virtually back, and I've enjoyed having a good crack.
Yeah, it was good.
It's been, you know, so hopefully everybody else has enjoyed it. We'll share the links to the fundraising page.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's various film screenings, isn't there?
Yeah, the film will be like released, but Dave McFarlane, who made the film, and he put like massive amount of time into it. I know, I don't even realise, I don't think, but he's told me, and it just, he really has done a good job.
Amazing job.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And so he's going to release it generally maybe late February, I think.
Okay.
But until then, I know it's going to be at Fort William Mountain Festival, and there's a couple of showings maybe in Ireland in a couple of weeks' time, and the Climber Shop are going to do something in February as well. So and there may be another few venues as well if anyone's interested.
Yeah.
But certainly late February for a general kind of a release on the internet, or however Dave will do it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Right, spot on. Right, well, we'll finish up now. Never know quite how to finish these things. So just goodbye to everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the waffle.
Yeah.